Brenda that were there at the hospital that day, and just for all the prayers. I just appreciate it. It's kind of hard to know where to start. I just want God to lead me through this. So like I said, we started off at Valleydale when we moved here, and we knew God wanted us somewhere else. And so we were on the internet one day, and God led us here. When we first sat down, we knew we were supposed to be here. And we'd been going to Pentecostal type churches, but I've never, and I grew up Christian, but I never prayed through the Spirit or knew what any of that meant. And my daughter, when we moved here at the time, was going to Briarwood Christian School, and I joined the prayer team at that time. And a couple women in that group were just, wow, they were just prayer warriors. And God, just walking through looking back and seeing what He did for me, He brought those two women in my life, and I learned how to pray. And then God led me to assembly class, and I can't remember even when we started coming.
I can't either. It's just like you've always been here.
Yeah, I can't remember. I just know that this is where we were supposed to be. This is where I had seen so many miracles every single week. We all see so many miracles happen in this room every day, every week, and the Holy Spirit is so powerful, and I'm just so thankful that came into our life. So we started that, and then that song came about. But about, I think it was 2 years ago, I was in Maryland. My grandma was passing away, and I was talking to my husband on the phone, and I wasn't able to get my words out. I was trying to talk to you on the phone, and I wasn't able to get my words out, and I was like, I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't say it. And it was just weird, and I was on 2 medications at the time, and so my mom looked up the medications, and said they could interact and make that happen. So I quit taking them, and I was fine for a year. And then last year, probably in about February, it happened again. And during this time, Brian would always say, "Quit dragging your leg on the ground. Quit dragging your leg on the ground." And I'm like, I am not dragging my leg on the ground. It's my shoe. And looking back, I was like, okay. And then, so the episodes started happening more and more. And then about that time, last year, Pastor Hobbs did his Revelation study. I know a bunch of y'all were there. And Brian wasn't able to be there, but every Wednesday night, it was 3 Wednesdays, and the last one was right before my surgery. And every Wednesday I'd come home, and I would just come home and sit in that chair, and I'd be like, God, give me a testimony. You've got to give me a huge testimony. I need a testimony because you're coming back soon, and I want to reach people for you. And I just prayed and called out, and I was just, couldn't sleep, and couldn't wait for the next time, could hear him, and it was just so powerful. And that was, I think the last one was very beginning of April, right before it happened. And I'll never forget the Sunday before it happened. I was sitting next to you, Brenda. Normally I'm sitting in the front, and I sat back next to you, and I hit me later, and you sat next to me, and you're like, your hair is so beautiful, and you're talking about my long, pretty hair, and then I'm looking at that, and I'm like, oh. But then what I didn't know is that Brenda would be a huge part of my story, which was amazing. Anyway, so Brian was out of town April, actually, I want to tell you about someone else he used in the story that y'all don't know that I would like you to pray for. Her name's Stephanie. So I was in spin class. Well, it kept happening more often. So I had an appointment with a regular doctor, not that I knew very well. And I told her my symptoms because it was happening week after week, and that I wasn't able to talk. And so I'm thinking, blood clots, I'm not sure. And the lady was like, oh, well, we'll send you to a neurologist, we'll call you back, and we'll send you whenever you get an appointment. which was good looking back that she didn't send me, because she's like, oh, there's this young group of doctors at this certain hospital that you need to go to. They're really good. And I left there, I'm like, okay, well, that's kind of weird. And so then that was on a Monday, and I left spin class on that Monday to go. And my friend that I would spin next to, I hadn't known her but a year. And the next day, Tuesday, Monday night, I couldn't sleep all night. And the next day, I didn't go to class, and she was texting me, where are you, bugging me. She's that friend that you want. She was on top of it. And I had another episode that morning, and I told her what the doctor had said. She's like, oh, no, you're not going to that hospital, you're going to UAB, you need to see Dr. Fisher. He's the best around here, he's one of the best in the world. My son had something wrong with his brain the year before. Call UAB right now. I called UAB, and of course you can't get in to see him till September. But they said, if you think you're having mini strokes, because I thought I was having mini strokes, the TIAs, because I was still on birth control. And if you want to go see him, we can't tell you to go to the emergency room, you go to the emergency room. And I called my friend, and she's like, find somewhere for Dejda to go, because he was in Cincinnati, and I'm taking you right now. And I started crying. I'm like, I did not want to go. Dejda had an activity at school that day, and I was supposed to be a part of it. And I cried and didn't want to go. And so I found my friend, took Dej, and I met her at the emergency room. She was supposed to pick me up, and she let me have it too, because I didn't let her pick me up. I drove myself, and she was mad at me. But anyway, I'm glad she was with me, because she is like, whip you into shape. So we get to the hospital, and she's like, you tell them that you just had one 30 minutes ago. You tell them that. So we get in there, and it was the UAB standing.
Freestanding.
Yes, in Hoover. It's like a mile from my house. So we went there, and they took me right back. They did a CT scan, and I think they did my chest too at the time. And I'm just sitting there talking to Stephanie, and what I want to say about Stephanie is Stephanie had lost her sister 4 years ago. They believe the husband killed the sister, but it's an open case. And so Stephanie has been away from God and struggling for a long time. And so I know God wanted her to witness this miracle. I know that he did not want Brian there, because I believe if Brian would have been there, I might have relied more on Brian than God. But he wanted her to see this. So the doctor barely got through the curtain, and he was like, I don't like the way your scan looks. You have a mass or something on your brain. And anybody that's been through anything, I mean, you're just, I don't know. You don't even know. Yeah, I just thought of my daughter, like, I'm going to die, you know. And he said, we have an ambulance on their way to come get you. We have neurosurgeons down at UAB waiting on you to do more testing, and we'll go from there. But he just kept talking, and I didn't listen because I couldn't listen. So tried to get in touch with Brian, couldn't get in touch with Brian, finally got in touch with them. I let Stephanie talk to him, called my mom, and then my third call was to Miss Emily. And she prayed with me, and she said, don't you quit calling out to Jesus. Don't quit calling out to Jesus. Don't quit calling out to Jesus. And at that moment, I couldn't call out at that moment. Could not. But I remember that, and everybody that knows Miss Emily's story it's crazy how similar it is to mine. And it's amazing that God brought her to me. So we rode on the ambulance down there, which was horrible. Get down there, and of course it's packed, and I'm in a hallway by myself, just crying and a mess. And my phone's dying, so I can't call my husband. Stephanie's in the emergency room waiting for me. She can't come back yet. But they finally got me a room, emergency room or whatever. And the next doctor came in, and he's like, well, I think you might live, you might be okay. I was like, okay, you know, so I didn't look at him either. I was done with him. He's like, oh, did that bother you? And I'm like, yeah. And so he was just rude. I mean, not rude, but he was young. He didn't know what to say, and I just couldn't take it. And
Probably a resident.
yeah, there's a lot of residents there. So, yeah, he said all the wrong things. But, so I'm a wreck, but all of a sudden they come in and they're like, we're getting ready to do a scan of your entire body where they do the, yeah, they put all that warming stuff in your body to see if there's any cancer all over your body. And so at that time I was done. I was like, started calling out. Stephanie was in the room at that point, and I started calling out to Jesus, just crying out to Jesus. I need peace, Lord. Just praying like we always pray in here every Sunday. Just crying out, because I had been a complete wreck up to that point. All of a sudden, after that, this bubble, I think you call it a bubble, this bubble of peace surrounded me. And I was fine. Even rolling into surgery, I was fine. We have pictures of me going into surgery. Big smile on my face.
Right.
Jesus gave me so much peace. I've never felt that. It's so hard to explain, I mean, unless you feel it.
It's just supernatural.
It is supernatural. So after that, these other doctors came in and they're like, well, it looks contained, so that's good. It might be benign, but we don't know yet until we do more tests, blah, blah, blah. And so they admitted me upstairs to the neuros unit, yeah. The neuroscience unit. So they put me up there, and Brian got there about 4:30 in the morning. He was in Cincinnati. They had to drive all night because they couldn't catch a flight. And my friend Stephanie was with me the whole time. But the next morning, lo and behold, what doctor did I get? Dr. Fisher. Yeah, Dr. Fisher. But come to find out, he told me that he was the only one that would have been able to operate on me. The way it was on the top of my brain. I don't know, most of you probably haven't seen pictures of it, but it was pretty large, and it was growing through the main vein of my brain. So if it would have been a teeny bit of a mistake, I would have lost all use of my arms and legs, and I could have died very easily if it wasn't for him. And he comes in there, and first thing he says is, do you have children? And asks me the hard questions, and that kind of unnerved me, but I was okay. I knew I was in good hands. I knew the Lord was taking care of me. And but he said that was on Wednesday, and so you're gonna have surgery tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, so you're having surgery tomorrow. So Brian went home, and Miss Emily came up, and Miss Ann came up and sat with me all day and prayed all. I'm sure you were praying over me the whole time. And I finally got some rest. And that night, trying to sleep, when I was trying to finally sleep, I hadn't slept for a long, long time. I would start getting anxiety and a little scared, and all of a sudden, the right Christian song would come into my mind every time, and like Christian music would come into my mind, and I would be at peace, and I was able to sleep through the night. And the next day, I was fine. Going into surgery, Pastor came, Pastor Jeremy came, Pastor Noah came. Pastor Murray had come the day he came. Yeah, Pastor Murray, and he's been a big part of my life since I've been here. Just praying over me for certain things. And but Pastor Jeremy, he said, he told the story of like the song where God prepares the way for you, and how he prepared the way for Moses. And just when he said that, that's in that song. And so I knew he had been preparing this the whole entire time. And went into surgery, and came out alive, obviously. I lost a lot of blood. I think I had three pints of blood put in me. And it was benign. It was a benign tube, so it was benign, aggressive. They got it all, and that tumor is gone.
Yes, that tumor's gone.
That tumor's gone. We claim that. And
All cells are gone.
all cells are gone.
Amen.
No cells are coming back. And I was only in ICU one day. Thursday was surgery. Friday, I got out. Friday, they had me walk around the unit, and I could feel my foot hit the ground, and I'm like, oh, maybe I was dragging my foot. So the tumor was on my left side, so I was obviously dragging my right leg. But I was having seizures. All those times I couldn't talk, I was having seizures, which I didn't know. And probably for the past 5 years, I'd have a ton of pressure in the back of my head, which I just thought was working out or whatever. And I would always try and get the help from that. And all of that, I mean, it's just completely gone. The tumor was pressing on. I was on hormones. I was taking all kinds of stuff for emotional stuff because it was just messing with all different parts of my body that I didn't realize how horrible I felt. You just think, you're just tired all the time, you feel horrible, and then all those symptoms are gone, and I feel wonderful. But all so yeah, I walked around, and I passed all the little tests that you have to talk and all that kind of stuff, and I left the hospital Saturday. Thursday, surgery Thursday, went home Saturday.
And y'all, we're talking 49 staples, in her head. So it was, yeah, when the doctor told us that we were going home, we were like, what?
And I was like, I don't want to go home. He's like, only sick people are here. You're getting out of here. I don't want you to get sick. I don't want you to catch anything. And, let me see what I said. Something I wanted to say about, oh, this is huge. I don't know, I might have shared this one day. So this past summer, y'all prayed for me again. It was just in the summer after I'd had surgery, and I think I was being fearful, and I was sitting next to Nan. Y'all might remember this, but those that didn't hear this is so God, it's amazing. I was sitting next to Nan during class, and she handed me this verse, and I put it in my Bible and just put it away, and I said I'll read it later. I went and sat in the sanctuary and sat down, and Miss Kathleen came and sat next to me, and she's flipping through her Bible. She's like, God wants me to give you this verse. I don't know where it is, and I gave you my number, and I said, text it to me later, and said, text it to me later, and I saw the verse, and I looked it up, and then I looked in my Bible at the verse that Miss Nan had given to me, and it was the same verse. The crazy thing is the verse is Nahum 1:9. And where's Nahum? I don't know. I knew it was in the Old Testament, but Nahum 1:9 says at the very end, affliction will not come upon you a second time. So whoever needs that, you claim that over yourself, and that was given to me. I give that verse to so many people, Kathleen, who I know that was meant for me and is meant for so many other people. So y'all need to claim that over yourselves, that verse. It's very powerful. Since it's coming up on a year, I think the last 2 months, at the nights, the devil really tries to attack me and put fear in me. And so I listen to Fear is a Liar, and Miss Emily tells me that the devil is the biggest liar there is, so he does that to you. But that song, Fear is a Liar, is huge in my life. Because that's when he likes to get you, is the night, especially when you're trying to go to sleep. So I have to keep working on that. And so he's told me lately to talk to people about fear and not being fearful and trusting in him, and calling the devil out on that and getting him telling him to get out of there. Especially in your homes, Miss Emily taught me, that's my sanctuary, that's my family's sanctuary. The devil is not allowed not allowed in my house. Jesus is in my house.
Yes.
And so I want y'all to know, I want y'all to remember to, when you get fearful, just cry out to Jesus. And I just want to thank y'all again for all your prayers. And I have a scan on April 2nd, so if you'll keep me in your prayers again. I know it's gonna be okay, but I do have a scan, every 6 months I go, and they didn't recommend radiation. I got to pick if I wanted radiation or not, but I chose not to because I'm believing that everything is gone and I do not need it. So, but I